everyone, this is Genevieve. Welcome to People and Place Needle Felting. So, needle felting is probably my favorite because, I don't know, I find it very soothing. I think I came across it maybe a couple years ago and purchased some of the wool roving from a shop in town in Eganville and just started to play with things. And I don't know, I find it, apart from the needles, which can be kind of dangerous if you're not paying attention, I do find it a soothing activity. So if you chose needle felting and that's the kit you received, you would have got some wool roving. You would have received a sponge, or half a sponge really, and you would have received some needles. So they're small, medium, and large needles. Generally, we use the large needles in the beginning when we're just starting to tack our piece together. And then you move to the smaller needles when you want to do more fine details. Again, I'm not sure if we can see this, but needle felting needles have these little, I don't know if you can see those little barbs or little ticks in them. And the whole idea is that as you're kind of stabbing, as it were, into the roving, it's actually tightening all of those fibers, and you can really sculpt things in quite a lot of detail just using these needles and the wool roving. So this year I had a garden and I wanted to grow lots and lots of squash, and I was actually very unsuccessful in my garden, but my compost pile grew a lot of squash. And so it kind of inspired me when fall came around to start to make a few replicas in felt. So these are needle felted squash. So this is something you could conceivably do with needle felting. If you just love it, you start playing with it and you're like, oh, what can I make? You can make a lot of things. Anyway, so your kit, you would have received some of the supplies, and you would have received a paper template of your design, your 8x10 piece of the overall collaborative work, and a felt mat, or the backing for your piece. And this is a commercially felted type of material. It is not a natural fiber. Unfortunately, because of COVID again, it was kind of difficult sourcing some materials that we needed. So we did have to kind of go with a very easy to find felt mat background. And so if you've chosen to do your own, or you have extra supplies, you could conceivably wet felt or even needle felt a backing for yourself. The idea is that the backing of the design is actually green. It doesn't have to be this green. This is actually not even my favorite color green, but we can always lay other felt over top, or some of the other wool, and really make that green a bit more natural, a little bit prettier. But anyways, this surface is actually, though it is a bit more challenging to needle felt into than some of the softer mats, it's still doable. The other year I did a cloak with needle felting as a fundraiser, part of the fundraiser for OV Chaos. And that is what I used as well. I used a commercial felt because that's what I could get my hands on. And so it is a bit more challenging to needle felt into, but it's actually very doable anyways. Let me see if I can show you. So I think spent about 20-25 minutes playing with this. What I really like to do when I'm needle felting on a flat surface is to take very thin strips of this. So this, you could card, sometimes there's actually vegetal matter left in it because this is natural fibers, so sometimes there's bits of grass and stuff. You could pick that out if you see it. but I often like to just do kind of wispy bits and lay it down on here. And if you've never needle felted before, you really can just play and try. It's not hard. You do want to avoid hitting your fingers because that hurts. Anyways, so generally when I'm starting, I just kind of lay things where I think I want them. And I just tack lightly. I don't even go super, I don't go too close together until I like what I see. Because if you've just tacked lightly, you can actually still pull this off. So the more you stab at it with your needle, I'm sure there's a better word to use than stab, but it's kind of what's happening. And then what I do too, because like as you're doing this, you are kind of sticking to your sponge, and so I pull that off at different points as I'm going along, and you can see how the felt is actually pushed through the back of this piece. And so as I'm going, the more detail I'm doing, I just keep peeling it off my sponge just to make sure, because if you keep going and you don't ever peel this off as you're going, sometimes you can start to pull bits of your sponge through, which is not the most, it doesn't look that great. Anyway, so this is the idea. So you can really mold this however you like. And also the other option is when you do thin strips, you can almost do little fades to kind of make, they say this dark, if you think this is too dark and you want a bit more texture, you can do these kind of gentle fades, like almost like a watercolor fade here. And again, you can just tack it gently till you see the way you like it, and then you can go into more detail. And again, you're just poking through with your needle as you go. And again, you can also drape over your line. This hard line, this 8x10, is where it's going to connect to another person's piece. And so sometimes it's nice to go over a little bit because it has a nice flow, but ultimately that piece is going to be sewn directly in line with another person's work and flow into the other piece. So what do I want? I want to say a couple things too about the template that's important. So anything that's white in your image is actually the green, the base. It doesn't have to stay this green, but the idea is that the map aspect of the overall piece is the landscape, are the trees, the fields, all of that greenery of our landscape. If you see a red line, that's a highway or a road. And then here, this is actually water. So anything that goes right to the edge and moves off is moving into another collaborator's piece. So it's important that we stay as accurate as possible, that once I sew the other piece to yours, that water will continue through, the tree will continue through, that road will continue through. So any of these black lines here, when they hit the edge, we want to keep those as accurate as possible. The bark itself, though, you do not have to follow my design here. I just did some shading to give you an idea of bark, or some possible ideas of ways to go about it, but you could go into as much detail or as little detail as you want. And as, in fact, you can see, I've actually not followed my own pattern either. I kind of wanted to do a little bit more texture, a little bit different. But I did keep, again, on those hard lines so that it will work when it connects to another collaborator's piece. As well, the fun thing with needle felting is you could conceivably create, say, the mushrooms or flowers 3D, and then either sew them onto your image or needle felt them in. And again, anything that's within your image, you don't have to. If you get the mushroom one and you think, I'm actually not that excited to create a mushroom, that is totally fine. You could do flowers, you could do more grass. We really want to keep this as open as possible for you to be creative and really to have fun. And again, this is an idea of, like, you could conceivably do 3D mushrooms, and then those could be needle felted or sewn on. Some people's pieces have pebbles, like there is a bit of a water aspect to the overall image, and there's a stream with pebbles and stuff, and I've put those as needle felting segments, and so you could again conceivably create little pebbles 3D, which are actually really simple. I can give you an idea. So this one actually is, I started with blue and then did a thin overlay of a gray wool. This is just one of the wools that had like multiple colors in it. And all you do for that is, I guess I already needle felted this. Let me take this apart. So this is just a little piece of roving. And all I do to make the pebbles is just kind of gently fold it in. And then I just take my needle and I very carefully start to shape that. I do have the camera right in front of me, so I'm trying not to stab myself. It's not the most ideal, but this kind of gives you an idea. And so the harder you felt, like the more pop, 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 pops with your needle that you do, the more it holds its shape and comes together. You can make them really light, you can make them really hard, you can add other colors over top to give more texture to your pebbles. There's a lot. And again, there's a wealth of information online too, and lots of tutorials if you want more. And also, please feel free to call me, email me, if you want to ask questions about the overall project, or even if you would like me to do some more detailed tutorials, I can also try to do that as well. Yeah, want to give you as much space to be creative as you can, but also want you to feel like you know how to start and what to do with your piece. So I hope everyone gives it a try, has some fun, and I think it's going to be very exciting when it all comes together to see what all of you have created. And I really want to thank everyone for participating in this collaboration. And yeah, I think because I've just started this and it doesn't look like much yet, I'll post a photo of it completed to give you an idea. Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much. Take care.